If you are looking for news related to CNCF project or open source solution, then this episode is for you. Welcome to Is It Observable? Today's episode is a bit special, so we are live at Kubecon Valencia. So today I will take advantage of being here to share a few news related to what happened at Kubecon. We'll do a few interviews and I will try to share the atmosphere of Kubecon Valencia. So follow me at Valencia. I heard that you had the Litmus project happening yesterday. Could you, what was the overall outcome of the meeting? Do you have any feedback to share on how it was?
Well, it was well attended. It was primarily to share the project update and also to give a good overview of why and what of chaos engineering. Also, we wanted to talk a little bit about the roadmap and what we wanted to do in the next couple of years, how we want to take it to the larger user base, etc., etc. It was good.
And so you're talking about the roadmap. So do you have any specific news or product updates that will happen soon?
Yes, in fact, we just wrote a blog that's coming out tomorrow. So the main update from the Litmus Chaos point of view is the project has reached a level of maturity where it's usable by almost everyone as a platform to do chaos engineering. Now we are focusing more on use cases of chaos engineering to take it to developers and DevOps. Chaos engineering has been mostly seen as something for SREs or ops only, but we are finding it also useful for the entire DevOps. So yeah, we are announcing certain features that are more friendly for entire DevOps.
So you're referring probably to the ability to introduce failure in the application level directly, I guess.
Yes, at the application level and also as part of the CI build time, possible chaos, as well as in the CD, right? So before you ship, you can actually test your applications against possible failures somewhere else in the stack. And instead of doing chaos engineering after it is deployed in production, you can actually test it much before and then take advantage of the CI/CD pipelines.
So you are from Pyroscope. So could you maybe remind to everyone what is Pyroscope, what it does, what's the objective?
Yeah. So Pyroscope is an open source continuous profiling platform. Basically allows people to understand hotspots in their code, where performance resources are going, and we've been excited members of the open source community and are now starting to expand into also having a more scalable, highly available version of Pyroscope as well.
And so the way you're collecting profiling, is it based with agents? So you need to have an agent close to the code, or is it something else? Do you have a library to add or something else?
Yeah, so the way it works differently for different languages. We support most major languages: Go, Python, Ruby, eBPF, PHP, Java, .NET. But basically how it works is that, you typically add an agent to your code, whether that be a pip package, Ruby gem, whatever it might be. And then you can send the data to the Pyroscope server, where we then compress it, store it efficiently, and allow you to query and then analyze it. We do support pull mode for some languages as well, but that's generally the pattern that people use.
Maybe it's a great moment to share some OpenTelemetry news with the community. So any announcement or any probably future support for OpenTelemetry?
Sure thing. So the big announcement is that OpenTelemetry metrics has reached 1.0. We have a set of GA release candidates that were pushed out this week for various languages. More are also on the way. So these are the first set of production-ready OpenTelemetry components that fully fulfill our vision for metrics. And so those are available now for, I think, Python, Java, and .NET, with JavaScript arriving, I think, next week, and more languages to come after that. So it's a huge fulfillment of the project's original vision of having tracing and metrics. Logs will ship probably later this year or early next year. Of course, logs was started a bit later than the other two signal types, and so that was expected. And then the other big sort of interesting thing is about our roadmap. So we had time here, 3 or 4 hours for a large community meeting, which was great. We also had a large presentation about OpenTelemetry yesterday. And it was wonderful to sit with maintainers and contributors and end users and talk about, well, with metrics being done, where do we want the project to go next? So there are a number of proposals that were made and then voted on. Probably the one I'm the most excited about was after logs, the second one had the second most popularity amongst everyone who was there, was profiling. So it looks like we'll be making a push as a project into profiling, which is great.
So I guess the idea is that profiling will be continuous profiling.
Yes.
And the main idea is to be able to attach to a specific span the details, is to be able to drill down on what actually happened on that code.
Precisely, yeah. And so that's where the excitement comes from. This will be the first example in OpenTelemetry, the first time when we can take performance data that comes from services and infrastructure like it does today, and then correlate that all the way down to code performance of individual functions within an application. This makes our observability tools that are heavily used by developers actually show the thing they spend most of their day working on, which is code, and show how their code is actually performing, giving them more details than that. I think it's very exciting. I've worked on profiling before, so this is something that I was very interested in being added. But I was very impressed with the enthusiasm we saw in the community amongst a lot of people saying, hey, I understand the vision of this, let's go do it. And so I'm excited to get started.
To increase the adoptions, I'm pretty sure that the community is trying OpenTelemetry as we speak.
Yes.
So if you're trying OpenTelemetry, then please reach out back to the project.
Yes.
So we're looking for feedback, so then the maintainers could adjust, improve, and increase the adoption again.
Yep. If you have specific feedback about a certain component, like say Java SDK, Go SDK, Collector, something like that, the best place to give it to is the special interest group that works on it. They all meet weekly. The meetings are on the calendar. You can also pass that feedback via GitHub, by issues, or other means. If you have general feedback, like you're a user of OpenTelemetry across your infrastructure and services, we are really, really interested in learning about how you use it, what you use it for, and your general feedback on the project. What works well, what doesn't, what do you want to see changed?
Could you remind to the attendees what you are building and what you're providing to the community?
Sure. Well, my name is Eduardo Silva. I have been participating in the CNCF for some time. Actually, one of the maintainers of the Fluentd ecosystem, one of the creators of the Fluentbit project, and have been around for a while. And well, I have been mostly working in the observability space. Our tools that we provide as an open source pretty much does all the log management, log processing, allow us to move the data from a Kubernetes cluster from the edge nodes to your destination, which could be any kind of database or cloud service that you might be using.
And so you started with Fluentd, and what did you decide to say, oh, we need to provide another framework, Fluentbit, to the market?
Yeah. Well, that was time when I joined Treasure Data. It was like 7 years ago, and Fluentd was already created. It was not so famous in the Americas. It was famous in Japan, right? Most of the developers were Japanese at that time. And we envisioned that we're going to need something light with that Fluentd, because Fluentd was written in Ruby language, right? You know, it's scaled, but at a certain point, but it's a single process. And we were thinking about embedded Linux, IoT. I'm thinking about 7 years ago, right? And we said, okay, let's write something that will work for that era, but must be in C because of performance, portability. At that time, Golang was not friendly with ARM architecture. So we created Fluentbit, I created Fluentbit and started iterating, making a good solution for embedded Linux. But so after 1-2 years, Kubernetes took off, Fluentd took off too. But in the cloud, we found that there was more need for this lightweight agent, right? And that's where we started implementing more features in Fluentbit, like a Kubernetes filter, the ability to read data from a systemd, besides just logs. And we started extending, okay, let's add more output plugins or destinations like PostgreSQL, HTTP, stack drivers, Plan.
And by the way, I think you have also provided, I mean, I have the chance to evaluate it, and it's Calyptia. So what about Calyptia?
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing. It's like when we started Fluentbit project, we started seeing the traction with the years. And then we found that many enterprises were struggling with missing features or stuff that they needed to fix, right? And as maintainers, well, developers usually are just a few number of people, right? And it's hard to prioritize what to do first. So for us, the natural answer was, okay, let's start a commercial entity and run on top of the Fluent ecosystem and start investing in open source first thing. Actually, we started hiring maintainers. And the second step is start building all these missing layers for the enterprise. For example, one of them, as a Calyptia, we offer consulting, supporting on top of the Fluentbit and Fluent ecosystem. But also we are providing now Calyptia for Fluentbit, which is like a Fluentbit distribution that is LTS, long-term support, that financial institutions or any company that cares about just security can run it for 18 months without any problems.
If you think about Kubernetes, majority of people think of Kubernetes as an orchestrator for containers running in your cluster, right? And I'm not talking about CrossPlane yet. The real value of Kubernetes is actually that it is a scheduler capable to be extended through custom resource definitions and having an API that can be equally extended, right? Now, what CrossPlane does is that it extends Kubernetes with additional resources that are mapping something else. AWS, GitHub. Basically, it enables you to use Kubernetes to manage everything, theoretically at least.
So at the end, you could, I guess, deploy things. You can manage different.
Yeah, so you get custom resources with controllers that are matching some other real resources. So there is EC2 instance, right? Resource. There is GK cluster, node pool, anything, right? So basically, you're managing your infrastructure and services and applications using Kubernetes resources. And that goes through control loops where CrossPlane and Kubernetes are not only creating stuff, but continuously monitoring and making sure that the real state is the same as the desired state, finding drifts, reconciling and stuff like that.
Maybe you can remind to everyone what is your project and what you're currently delivering to the market.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Jason Morgan. I'm a technical evangelist for Buoyant, and we're the company that makes Linkerd. Linkerd is an open source service mesh. It's a CNCF project. We're in fact the only graduated service mesh from the CNCF. So that means, according to them, we've hit their highest tier of maturity for a project. We focus on being really lightweight, really easy to use, really high performance, and particularly secure.
And the other service mesh on the market, which type of proxy are you relying? Are you relying like the Envoy, like Istio and the others, or you have a specific technology?
Yeah, great question. So Linkerd doesn't use Envoy, so we wrote our own proxy called the Linkerd 2 proxy. It's written in Rust, right? And so Rust is kind of neat. It's a very modern language. It's not garbage collected. It compiles down native code, so it's very high performance. But it doesn't suffer from some of the memory management errors that you can see in C and C++, right? So we think it gives us an edge in terms of performance and security.
All right, awesome. I guess you're providing, all the various use cases that the service mesh is providing, like the observability, the retry logic, the circuit breaker, and so on, I guess?
Yeah, so Linkerd 2.11 doesn't include native circuit breaking functionality, so it gives you features around reliability for better endpoint selection. We give you mutual TLS. We give you all sorts of observability tools. We're targeting what we call client-side policy in Linkerd 2.13, which should be out later this year. Although we're on 2.11 now and we're releasing 2.12, so it's not going to be out tomorrow. But yeah, for us, client-side policy is having the client and a client-server conversation make a decision about where and when to send traffic. right? So for us, that's things like egress control, that's things like circuit breaking, and that's things like header-based routing. And all that is not in Linkerd today, but still hope you give it a shot. It's a pretty cool tool.
What was the main purpose of the first days?
So the thing changed a little bit over the last 2 years, where initially it was like, you had the full KubeCon days, and Contributor Summit was somehow intermingled with that. And now we kind of like shifted to a model where the first 2 days are really the contributors for the various CCF projects and other co-located meetings and conferences take place.
And so there was the first day with the Tech Observability. I had the chance to be part of it. Yesterday we had the OpenTelemetry meeting, and I think there was a lot of interesting things. So what is the highest topics for you that was very interesting?
I think in terms of takeaway, the number one thing that on the one hand shocked me, but on the other hand also makes perfect sense, is a statement that came up in the OpenTelemetry meeting or Contributor Summit, and that was we as an OpenTelemetry, we should not become the next IPv6. Meaning that, it doesn't matter how perfect everything is and great and whatnot, if the adoption is not there, or takes forever. So we want to avoid that. So that's a clear message and a clear, call to action, what we need to do to make that happen or not.
So basically increase the adoptions and get the feedback from the end users and the projects. So then the project can improve and ensure that OpenTelemetry will be a standard technology for all the projects.
That's right.
I see that you're wearing a OpenFeature t-shirt.
Yeah, OpenFeature.
What is it about? Can you tell us more?
Yeah, so OpenFeature is a standard we're developing. It basically abstracts feature flagging so that you can use feature flags in your application with a consistent API, consistent behavior across any number of languages in any feature flag system, be it a vendor or an in-house solution.
So basically you try to put a standard on enabling features for every type of platform.
Yeah, basically every platform, every runtime. We're starting with .NET, Node, Java. So we have SDKs in development for those languages as well as Go. But we hope to reach as many platforms and languages as possible. So
how old is that project?
It's brand new. It's only been a couple months that we've been working on it. I'm really excited because I think that a lot of people are familiar with like the basic concept of feature flagging, but it gets a lot more complicated. For example, we can do dynamic evaluations that take into account the user, their email address, that kind of thing. And we can do dynamic splits. So say some percentage of people get one behavior and another percentage gets a different behavior. It's really exciting work, yeah.
And I guess there is the community are working at the moment mainly on specification. What are you going to be doing on that?
Yeah, so we're working on specifications right now. So we're developing that standard, this, like I said, a language agnostic, very neutral specification so we can implement it kind of anywhere. And we have a really amazing consortium of vendors helping us, as well as some feature flag practitioners and SMEs. To really help make sure that the project is going to, suit everyone's needs. I'm really excited about that consortium and the community we have developed.
So I guess you're looking for contributors for this project?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and take a look at our GitHub. Just search GitHub for OpenFeature or visit openfeature.dev.
So maybe we can remind to the audience what is Cortex, what is provide to the market, the value of it.
Absolutely, yeah. So Cortex is an engineering platform. It basically helps engineering teams understand and improve their microservices. And so we integrate with all of the tooling in the company to build a single pane of glass to understand, who owns the service, where's the on-call retention for it, where are your SLOs and monitors located, even like documentation. And then once we have that single pane of glass into your service architecture, we have this product called scorecards that let you grade the quality of those services across different things like production readiness or security standards, or even migrations.
So you rely on, I guess, Observability to be able to provide that type of settings, or?
That's exactly right. Yeah. So we can basically pull service information from, observability tools, and then we provide other additional, like, more flexibility in, I guess, defining what goes into your production readiness. Because I think observability is kind of one element into that. Like, are your SLOs being defined? Are you passing your SLAs? Is your throughput where you want it to be? But then there's also things like, do you have on-call defined correctly? Do you have runbooks, documentation, kind of the development maturity that goes into building service health? And so I think Cortex helps augment that. And then we provide a lot of reporting that helps leadership and management understand where are the areas of risk in the business, which teams are performing well, which teams need additional resources from a reliability or security perspective. And so it's pretty flexible in the way companies use the product today.
And do you also collect, say, CI/CD metrics related to the specific services and report it back to Cortex, or?
That's exactly right. Yeah, deployment and tracking deployments is a large part of it. So, we'll track, how frequently was a service deployed, good deployments, bad deployments. And I think all of those things play a factor into the service health. And also it's really useful in incident response. Something will break and then you can use Cortex to understand, was there a failed deploy or who deployed the code last? And we track dependencies as well, which we can pull from tools like Dynatrace, which I think can really help you get a cohesive view of, okay, what's going on in our service architecture.
Maybe it could be the right moment to remind to the audience what is Robusta, what it does, what it provides to the market.
Yeah, so we do two things. The first thing that we do is we do runbook automation for Kubernetes. So instead of getting a bunch of alerts and then hearing like, okay, here are a bunch of stuff that's going wrong, good luck, then we essentially say, here are a bunch of things that are going wrong, and here are the logs, and here's why, good luck. So we do that by getting webhooks, and then we enrich that with extra context. So that's the first thing we do. And then the second thing that we do is we do multi-cluster observability. So let's say you have a whole bunch of different Prometheuses or Dynatrace or other systems, and you want to see what's happening across different clusters, then we give you one single pane of glass where you can see everything that's happening. And you can also, like, let's say something goes wrong, then you can see who changed something 5 minutes before and who you want to blame. So that's the other thing that we do.
So at the moment you mainly rely, I guess, with the Kubernetes API and various metrics provided by Prometheus, I guess?
Yeah, so we get different stuff on push. So we get, you send us your Prometheus alerts, you send us your alerts from Elasticsearch, or you could send us your alerts from Dynatrace. You send us your alerts from all these different locations, and then we run on that automated runbooks that enrich it or add on logs or add on extra context, and then forward it to Stack, forward it to AppsGenie, forward it to whatever location you want to consume that in. That's one part of it. And then there used to be a project from, I think, Bitnami called KubeWatch. That this is the API server, and then Bitnami got acquired by VMware and they deprecated it. So we're now the official maintainers of KubeWatch, and we've taken that over. Okay. So then we use that to track all the stuff that happens. We let you track in general, and we let you send notifications to Slack, and we let you send a whole bunch of notifications about what's going on. But we also give it an alerting twist. So when you get an alert, then you can see who's responsible and who just changed something.
And do you also provide, for example, oh, we discovered this, you should do that, for example. This is what. Okay. And do you interact with any, let's say, chat ops system like Slack or any others? And basically, at the end user, I think, doesn't have to be connected consistently to Robusta. It could basically be interacting directly with stuff. Is it correct?
Yeah. So we do it in two ways. First of all, essentially, instead of sending your Prometheus alerts directly, like from Alert Manager to Slack, you're sending them to Robusta, which is running in your cluster. So it's all running in your cluster. It's not getting sent to our clouds. And then from there, we send to Slack. So then you get the same stuff as the original alert, but with all the extra context. And then sometimes, though, you then want to do a chat app style workflow where you then take an action. So sometimes what you can configure, it depends on the alert, but you can get it so that that message in Slack has a button, and then you click on that button and it takes an action.
Could you maybe explain to the community what's the purpose, value of CloudEvents?
Sure, yeah. So CloudEvents came from the serverless working group doing a white paper in 2018, or it was published in 2018, finding friction on adopting serverless. And one of the biggest friction points was no one can agree on payload shapes of invocations of events. So if you want to invoke a function, everyone has to agree on what that shape looks like. So as a community, if we can agree on how we route and how we unpack events, we can decouple ourselves from a lot of the protocol choices and a lot of the this bespoke software that helps us deliver these events to functions to improve adoption of serverless technologies.
So at the end, it's a bit like I would say, like for traditional technology, like a broker approach.
Well, CloudEvents itself doesn't define that piece. What it says is, here's what an event looks like. Here's how you can define how it could be routed, and then it defines the transformation between the idea of the event to the specific wire format of protocols, which allows us to let an event hop between multiple different kinds of protocols, all the way to that function or serverless or service that's running somewhere, back to the idea of the event.
But I was wondering if you could maybe explain what you provide to the community and on which project you are currently working on.
Yeah, sure. I'm an open source advocate. I work for IBM, but I really love working in open source. And I focus on a couple of projects. One of them is Keptn. I'm a maintainer there.
Oh, I was not aware that you were part of the Keptn project as well.
Yeah. And the other one is a new project. It's exciting. It's called CdEvents. And yeah, so it's a project in the Continuous Delivery Foundation, which is a kind of sister foundation to the CNCF. In the area of continuous delivery, and the main focus of the project, the main idea is interoperability through events. So you want to create a common language for the different tools in the CD space, whether it's CNCF or CdEv, doesn't matter, to talk to each other and interoperate.
So basically, it reminds me on the concept that Keptn provided a few years ago, with Keptn being able to make pipelines based on event-driven pipeline. So this is the main idea behind being able to make a standard to have different way of sending events but into various tools, and that those events will be very standardized for continuous delivery.
Yes, exactly. There is a project in the CNCF which is called CloudEvents, which kind of defines a common envelope, and a few other projects have been adopting it, like Keptn and Keptn and Jenkins as well. But what we care about in CdEvents is the content, so kind of a semantic of what you're saying within the envelope. Like I'm talking about an artifact or a build or a test, and different tools use slightly different names or concepts or to define them. And what we want to do is to create like a standard for that, or at least like vendor neutral format, so that everyone can understand each other. When you're doing things like orchestration with Keptn, or where you're doing some choreography, you have multiple tools in your workflows, right? Because it's a very rich landscape, and you don't have a single tool that really takes you from source code all the way to production. I mean, Keptn takes a very good slice towards getting also production and quality gates, but still you need to have a tool that at least maintains your source code. You need to have a tool where you store your artifacts, and if everyone emits events to the same format in the same language, that would help very much interoperability.
That's completely true. That's true. Hi Andy, how are you?
Hey, good, Henrik. I'm very good. A little warm in here, but other than that, it's all good. Valencia, right? Spain.
See here, we have oranges growing in the middle of the conference. It's
that explains my sweating, actually.
So I guess you're here for Keptn.
I am actually, yeah, exactly.
So could you maybe explain to all the attendees what is Keptn and what's the objective?
Cool. Yeah. So Keptn really, I think, gives power to your observability. It lets your observability drive the orchestration, and we help DevOps engineers and site reliability engineers by integrating with your, let's say, observability platform of choice, whether this is Prometheus or any of the commercial vendors, and then take observability data where you can define so-called SLIs and SLOs, objectives. So you basically define the desired state and how your system should operate. And then if there's a drift from your desired state from an observability perspective, Keptn can then trigger actions to bring the system back to the desired state from an observability perspective.
So your Keptn is able to do pure production remediation use cases, but I guess it's also cover more than just remediation.
Exactly, but remediation is a thing, and I think the what I would like to say is we're not just trigger and forget. It's not just there's a problem in production because your data is not what you expect, your response time, and then we trigger. We have like a reconciliation loop, like in an operator model. We are triggering events, or we're triggering tools to do certain things through standardized events. So we can integrate with any tool that you have, but then we always validate again if the system is back at the healthy state. And we have a reconciliation loop like any operator. And then the other use case is around getting stuff into production. So think about when you deploy something, you use Argo, CD, or Flux, or whatever you use. But then this just deploys something, but you don't really know does it work as expected. So there we also automatically check, is the deployment also successful from an SLO perspective? And if not, we do things that should be done, right? Push it back or whatever.
So you can either use it just to deploy, or you can also use it to manage a production. And the great thing is it's based on the SRE methodology, SLI and SLO, so it's a really great initiative. And you mentioned something, and today, probably in the conference, you mentioned CloudEvents. So CloudEvents is something that Keptn relies on.
Yeah.
So great interaction with different projects from the CNCF perspective, so great.
For tag observability, the new things which are coming out is the white paper, which we are finally finalizing. And also, again, we are trying to push more towards end users, which the white paper is part of. We are also trying to resurface older content, again, because something which we heard both this Monday when we had the Birds of a Feather, and just now when we had the Kubecon proper talk about tag observability is people, like the audience changes. The fundamentals of observability don't change. Like they've been the same for decades, for hundreds of years. How people understand information hasn't changed. But A, applying this to new technologies, and B, also within CNCF context, just all the new end users, all the new people entering the cloud native space, they told us they couldn't find the things which we already did put out. So we will also resurface a lot of this older content to make certain that they can actually see it and consume it and learn from it.
And implement it.
Yes, precisely.
And so you work for Grafana, so
yes.
Do you have any hot news related to Grafana as well?
Loads, but I don't want to take all of Grafana Conno like before. I can't English anymore. Long week. I mean the biggest news recently was obviously Mimir. If you want to hear about that one.
I discovered it.
Okay.
I think it's very amazing. The fact that you're resolving the potential limitation that Prometheus had with Mimir. So I think that's an awesome news.
I mean, as a Prometheus team member, I don't believe Prometheus has a lot of limitations. Yet, when you need to like scale to literally 8 billion active series, like as in active memory has been sent within the last 20 minutes, or you need high availability, or you need like more parallelized querying and such, then it comes into play. Prometheus itself is fine, but yeah, and also like in the future, like with graphite ingestion, OTLP, blah 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 blah, all of those things, it's going to expand more than just Prometheus, but that doesn't mean that Prometheus itself has any problems.
And I didn't have the chance to listen to a few Prometheus talks, but is there any news or features that will be added in the top of Prometheus that will bring even more value to the community?
Yes, I mean the thing which is currently ongoing, and you can see this if you looked at a lot of the observability and even non-observability talks. A lot of people are now talking about exemplars, something which OpenMetrics introduced, I think, in 2019, and which is in Prometheus, which is also going into Loki, blah, blah, blah. For those who don't know, exemplars are a way to attach a trace ID, 2 logs, 2 metrics, so you can jump directly into your trace with the knowledge of, hey, this is my high latency bucket, this is that error, and I jump directly into the trace. So that's the thing which is currently kind of taking over the cloud native scene to some extent. The next big thing which is coming to Prometheus is high resolution histograms. Because a lot of people didn't like the predetermined buckets of Prometheus. OpenTelemetry is working on something similar, trying to maintain compatibility with Prometheus for obvious reasons. Yeah, and that's the next big thing for Prometheus.
What is Komodor and what is it solves?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Itiel. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Komodor. Our platform is a troubleshooting platform for Kubernetes. Basically, we take all of the hard things when it comes to managing and troubleshooting Kubernetes problems and simplifying and automating them for our users. So we take everything that happened across your clusters. We build a one timeline for each cluster and for each service, so you can understand who changed what, when, as part of your clusters. And we help you by automating the root cause itself. So we give you like a digested, look here, this looks like the problem.
So basically you're, what type of problem, for example? Do you have any examples to?
Yeah, like I will say that everyone who ran Kubernetes know that the pod sometimes crash. Sometimes the pod crashed because a developer wrote a bad code. Sometimes it's because the node became unhealthy. Sometimes it's because of PVC problem. So there are a lot of different reasons why Kubernetes misbehaved. Komodor tries to help in each one of those cases. We will tell you that the PVC has experienced the problem. We'll tell you that there was a deploy change just like 5 minutes prior to everything, and that you should go to this GitHub commit that looks suspicious. So what we try to do is for every time you are like trying to figure out, like being a detector, trying to figure out what's the problem in the Kubernetes cluster, go to Komodor instead and like get a comprehensive view of what is happening.
So basically, you're able to keep track of the various changes. And
yeah,
say,
exactly.
From the previous release, this definition of the PVC has changed, and that's the reason.
Yeah, we know both the changes. Like we built our platform both on tracking everything that changed, but also tracking the healthiness of each one of the components. So we give like something comprehensive. You can go into the service, understand when it was unhealthy on one hand, and when it changed on the other hand, and how did it interact with other services or like infrastructure related things inside Kubernetes. Everything on a single view.
So is it, how is it? You can deploy it, you have to deploy Komodor in your cluster, or is it a SaaS-based solution?
Yeah, it's a SaaS-based solution. You install the agent. The installation is usually like 20 seconds, basically helm install, and that's it. And we are very lightweight, like we try to do no harm. So the installation is very easy and very non-intrusive. We read only data and we read only the metadata. So you can really install us without any fear.
My name's Daniel Bryant, head of DevRel at Ambassador Labs. A lot of work in the Kubernetes space, always interested in hearing, helping engineers code, ship, and run. So I've worked on a bunch of open source projects like Telepresence, Emissary Ingress, and my background is Java development, so lots of open source Java stuff as well.
So you're mainly here to represent Ambassador, I guess?
I am indeed, yes.
So what is Ambassador?
So Ambassador is a company that really focuses on the code, the ship, and the run within Kubernetes. We have a cloud offering, Ambassador Cloud, which is very much a control plane onto many of the tools that you need to code, ship, and run. So we have Telepresence, which is fast feedback, local to remote dev connections, get super fast testing, super fast feedback, and your laptop can effectively be put into the cluster on the network, which is when you see it, it's awesome. We do a lot of work with Argo CD and Argo rollouts for the shipping part of the equation there. And then finally, we do a lot of work with security, resilience, observability in the API gateway space. So Emissary Ingress, Ambassador Edge Stack, get that feedback loop going, that continuous delivery from idea to delivering value, get the feedback, make it better.
I'm actually maintaining, also not contributing, but it's just there are lots of open source projects around observability written in Golang, lots of libraries as well, but my main priority, of course, on top of like full-time job at Red Hat, I maintain Thanos, Prometheus, those are like the biggest project, and yeah, they're very popular in the CNCF space, and that's why I'm here technically.
So do you have any news related to either Prometheus or Thanos to share to the audience?
Yeah, totally. So I think, Richie, who talked to you, already mentioned about exemplars, but there are tons of stuff that are coming to Prometheus on top of that. there are sparse histograms, so like ability to really, make histogram easy to use and very with like high granularity, but without, maybe, increasing the cost of it with the Prometheus, cardinality. That's one thing. Second thing is that we're working on better remote write, transactional remote write. So we are going to essentially integrate and export those metrics in more complex environments, like maybe multiple Kubernetes clusters and so on, just easier and much more efficient, right? So that would be for Thanos, for Prometheus, and for Thanos, which is essentially a project which kind of scales Prometheus, but it's really working. We're working together. I'm maintaining both, for example, and we're using Prometheus code. So we're kind of naturally growing on Prometheus capabilities. And here we hope to have 1.0 finally, which is we are already stable and kind of already supporting, some kind of guarantee of our APIs. But we finally want to confirm that with 1.0. So hopefully this will happen, next maybe next Kubecon. And so look forward to that. And with it, we want to make sure, our query path is even more kind of scalable and like faster and cheaper. And we are essentially enabling even easier to use multi-tenancy. So all those features that you need when you have those like really billions or series that you want to consume from many teams. So we are really working and focusing on that. And together, of course, building community, having more members of the team, and really helping each other.
That's it for today's episode related to Kubecon Europe Valencia. As you can see, a lot of great news has been shared over the week. So first, OpenTelemetry release for metrics, and also the roadmap that has been shared during the session with the support of continuous profiling. So that is a pretty exciting news for us, for the observability world. Out of that, I think there is a lot of great news related to Prometheus, Thanos, and way more, in fact. So if you enjoyed today's content, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. If you're looking for news related to KubeCon North America Detroit, I will try to be there in person to also share the atmosphere of KubeCon North America. Otherwise, next episode will be traditional, more on the tutorial side, so stay tuned for another episode related to an observability technology. See you soon. Bye.